The cargo bay doors of the New Horizon opened with a hiss that echoed through the metal corridors. Taesung held Bori's leash loosely in his hand, though he didn't really need it. The Belgian Malinois sat perfectly still beside him, her brown eyes watching everything with calm attention. She was trained for this. Stay calm, stay alert, wait for commands. Outside the human ship, massive alien vessels surrounded them like metal giants blocking out the stars. Their surfaces were smooth and dark, covered in symbols that Taesung couldn't read. He had heard stories about the Galactic Confederation, about how they patrolled this sector of space, but he never thought he would meet them like this. Not as friends. As prisoners, remain still. A mechanical voice boomed through a translator device. The words sounded strange, like they were being stretched and compressed at the same time. You will be processed and examined. Taesung felt Bori shift slightly against his leg. She wasn't scared, just aware. He reached down and touched her head gently, 2 fingers behind her ear. It was their signal. Stay ready. She understood. The aliens came through the doorway in a group. Taesung had never seen anything like them. The leader was tall, maybe 8 feet, with scales that shimmered green and gold under the lights. His eyes were vertical slits, and when he moved, his body had a fluid grace that reminded Taesung of a snake. Behind him came others, different species, different shapes. One looked like an insect standing upright, with multiple thin arms and eyes that seemed to look in all directions at once. I am Commander Vextire of the Scaleth Empire, the scaled alien said. His mouth didn't move quite right with the words. This vessel has entered Confederation space without proper authorization. You will be detained for questioning. We sent authorization codes 3 days ago, Taesung replied calmly. We're colonists heading to New Cheonan. Everything is legal. That will be determined, Vextire said. His eyes moved down to Bori. He stopped talking. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then he looked at the insect-like alien. Dr. Nyravan, what is that creature? The insect alien clicked forward on thin legs, her head tilted in a way that seemed curious. I have no data on this species. It appears to be a non-sentient quadruped. Mammalian classification, perhaps. But the genetic database shows no match. She's a dog, Taesung said. Her name is Bori. She's my companion. Companion? Vextire's translator made the word sound confused. You travel with a beast? She's not a beast. She's a working dog, trained for search and rescue. Dr. Nyravan moved closer, her multiple arms extending small scanning devices. Bori didn't move, but Taesung felt her muscles tense slightly under his hand. She didn't like strangers this close, not without his permission. Fascinating, Nyravan said. Her voice through the translator sounded high and quick. The creature shows signs of advanced neural development. Domestic breeding, clearly. And this bond you mention, this companionship, it is common among your species? Very common, Taesung said. Humans and dogs have lived together for thousands of years. She's family. Vextire made a sound that the translator didn't convert. It might have been a laugh or a snort. Family. The human claims kinship with a lesser species. This is the primitive thinking we expected. Taesung felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice level. There's nothing primitive about loyalty. We shall see, Vextire said. He gestured with one clawed hand. Take them both. Separate them. I want this creature studied. If humans bond with lesser species, we must understand this weakness. Wait, Taesung said, his voice rising. You can't separate us. She's trained to stay with me. If you take her, you are in no position to make demands, human. Vextire interrupted. Large alien guards moved forward, their bodies covered in thick armor. 2 of them were massive, with 4 arms each and skin that looked like gray rock. They grabbed Taesung's arms and pulled him backward. Bori, stay, Taesung commanded in Korean. The dog remained sitting, though her ears pulled back. Stay, girl. Good girl. Other guards approached Bori carefully. She watched them come. She didn't growl or show teeth. She just watched with those intelligent brown eyes tracking every movement. Remarkable control, Dr. Nyravan observed. The creature obeys even when distressed. The conditioning runs deep. It's not conditioning, Taesung shouted as they dragged him toward the doorway. It's trust. She trusts me. Vextire turned to watch as guards fitted a collar around Bori's neck. The dog allowed it, still sitting perfectly. Trust is simply another word for useful obedience, the commander said. We shall break this trust and rebuild it. The creature will learn to serve the Confederation, and you will learn that humans are not special. Your bonds can be broken and remade like any other. They pulled Tae-sung through the door. The last thing he saw was Bori, still sitting where he had left her, watching him disappear. Her tail didn't wag, her head didn't drop. She simply watched and waited. The corridors of the alien ship were cold and smelled like metal and something else. Something organic that Tae-sung couldn't identify. They took him down several levels and threw him into a cell. The walls were transparent on one side, looking out into a larger room where other humans were being held in similar cells. There were maybe 30 people there, all from his colony ship. Some were crying. Others looked angry. A few just looked tired. Tae-sung sat down on the metal bench that served as a bed. His hands were shaking slightly and he forced them to be still. Bori would be scared. No, not scared. Bori didn't scare easily. But she would be alone in a strange place surrounded by aliens who didn't understand her. "Hey," a voice called from the next cell. Tae-sung looked over. A woman around his age, maybe 30, with short hair and grease stains on her jumpsuit. "I saw them take your dog. I'm sorry." "They think they can train her," Tae-sung said quietly. "Make her loyal to them instead." The woman shook her head. "I know that breed. My father trained military dogs. Belgian Malinois, right? Those dogs don't switch loyalty. They bond for life." "I know," Tae-sung said. "That's what worries me. If they push her too hard, if they hurt her trying to break that bond." He didn't finish the sentence. "What will she do?" the woman asked. Tae-sung looked at her. "Whatever she needs to survive. Bori's smart, smarter than they think. She's probably already watching them, learning their patterns, figuring out the situation. You think she'll try to escape?" "No," Tae-sung said slowly. "She'll wait. That's what I trained her to do in difficult situations. Stay calm, observe, wait for the right moment. And when that moment comes..." He smiled slightly, though there was no humor in it. "These aliens have no idea what a working dog really is. They think she's just an animal. They're going to learn the difference." In another part of the ship, in a sterile white room with bright lights, Bori sat in the center of a containment cell. Aliens watched her through glass walls, making notes on devices that glowed and chirped. Dr. Nyravan stood closest, her insect eyes studying every detail. "The creature shows no signs of distress," she said to her assistants. "No whining, no destructive behavior, no attempts to escape. Perhaps the separation from the human was not as traumatic as he suggested. But if Dr. Nyravan had been able to read dog behavior the way humans could, she might have noticed the small details. The way Bori's ears tracked every sound, the way her eyes followed each alien that passed by her cell, memorizing their routes and timing, the way she tested the collar around her neck with subtle movements, learning its weight and weak points. Bori wasn't distressed. She was working. This was a problem to solve, like finding a person buried in rubble or tracking a scent through difficult terrain. Stay calm, observe, remember everything, and wait for Tae-sung to need her. The morning cycle began with harsh white lights flooding Bori's cell. She had not slept much. Working dogs knew how to rest while staying alert, and this place required alertness. Strange smells filled the air. Chemicals and alien scents she had no reference for. Strange sounds echoed through the walls at irregular intervals. Everything told her this was not safe territory. Dr. Nyravan entered the observation room with several assistants following behind her. She carried data pads and scanning equipment, her multiple arms working independently of each other. Behind her came a massive figure that made even the large doorway seem small. Kronvel was an Urgot warrior, standing nearly 9 feet tall with 4 thick arms covered in corded muscle. His skin was gray and rough like stone, and his face had heavy ridges over small, dark eyes. He wore minimal armor, preferring to show his physical strength. Among his people, he was considered an expert in breaking difficult creatures. "This is the animal?" Kronvel asked, his deep voice rumbling even through the translator. "Yes," Dr. Nyravan replied. "We will begin domestication protocols today." The human called her Bori. The name appears to mean hail or snow in their language. Kronvel studied the dog through the glass. Bori sat calmly, looking back at him without fear or aggression. "Just watching. She does not look dangerous," he said. "My youngest offspring could break her neck." "Size is not the concern," Nyravan explained. "We want to transfer her loyalty programming from the human to Confederation handlers. Commander Vexter believes this will demonstrate our superiority over human bonding methods." "Then let us begin," Kronvel said. He moved toward the cell entrance. "I will show this creature who the true alpha is." They entered the containment cell together. Bori stood up smoothly, her body balanced and ready. Her eyes tracked Cronvel first, identifying him as the primary threat, then moved to Niravan and the assistants. 4 potential threats. She calculated distances and angles automatically, the way she had been trained. Cronvel stepped forward and barked a command. Sit. Bori didn't move. The word meant nothing to her. She only understood commands in Korean and some English. Cronvel frowned. The creature does not obey. She requires discipline. He raised one large hand. Wait, Dr. Niravan said quickly. Physical punishment may damage the specimen. We should use positive reinforcement first. Show her food. An assistant brought forward a container of something that smelled like meat. Not good meat, Bori's nose told her. Processed chemical, wrong. But she was hungry. She had not eaten since before the capture. Cronvel took the food and held it out. Come, he said in a softer tone. Come here, creature. Bori looked at the food. She looked at Cronvel. Then she looked at the doorway where the other alien stood. She calculated the risk. These aliens wanted something from her. They would not hurt her yet, not while they wanted cooperation. She walked forward slowly and took the food gently from Cronvel's hand. Excellent. Dr. Niravan's translator made excited clicking sounds. She accepts food from a new handler. The bond is already weakening. But Bori wasn't bonding. She was surviving. She ate the food because she needed energy. She approached Cronvel because he wanted her to approach, and cooperation bought her information. Every moment in this room taught her more about her captors. Over the next several hours, they ran her through basic tests. Cronvel would give commands in Confederation standard language, and Bori would watch him carefully. Sometimes she obeyed, particularly when the command was clear from his body language. Sometimes she did not. When she obeyed, they gave her food or water. When she refused, they withheld rewards but did not punish. She is learning, Cronvel declared proudly. See how she follows my gesture? The human bond was shallow. Already she accepts my authority. Dr. Niravan was not so certain. She watched the dog's eyes. There was something calculating there, something that reminded her of military strategists studying battlefield maps. Perhaps, she said slowly. But we should continue observations before drawing conclusions. In the human detention area, Tae-sung pressed against the transparent wall of his cell. He had been asking about Bori for 2 days now, and finally a guard had brought him information. Not kindly, but in the way someone might taunt a prisoner. Your beast learns quickly, the guard had said. She already follows Cronvel's commands. Soon she will forget you entirely. Now Tae-sung sat on his bench, trying not to worry. The woman from the next cell, who had introduced herself as Ji-won, an engineer from the colony ship, was watching him with concern. You look stressed, she said through the thin barrier between their cells. They think they're training her, Tae-sung replied. But Bori doesn't train like that. She's not learning to obey them. She's learning about them. What's the difference? Ji-won asked. Obedience is following commands without understanding, Tae-sung explained. What Bori does is different. She partners. She understands the mission. Right now her mission is survival, so she'll play along with whatever they want, but she's not loyal to them. She can't be. That's not how working dogs function. How long will she play along? Ji-won asked. Tae-sung smiled slightly. Until she decides the game is over, or until I need her, whichever comes first. On the 4th day of training, something changed. Bori had been performing the basic commands consistently. Sit, stay, come, heel. Cronvel was teaching her words in Confederation standard, using hand signals to reinforce meaning. To the observers, it looked like successful conditioning. Then Cronvel made a mistake. Confident in his progress, he removed Bori's muzzle. She had been wearing it during training sessions as a safety precaution, though she had never shown aggression. Cronvel wanted to prove she was now safe without it. Come, he commanded, gesturing for her to approach. Bori walked forward, as she had done dozens of times, but when she reached him, instead of sitting as expected, she looked directly into his eyes. For a working dog, direct eye contact with a human partner meant attention and connection. For a wolf or wild dog, it meant challenge. Bori pulled her lips back slightly, showing just the edges of her teeth. It was not a full snarl, just a small display. A message. Cronvel stumbled backward, his warrior instincts screaming danger despite the dog's small size. His forearms came up defensively. The assistants in the room froze. Fascinating, Dr. Niravan said quietly. She had not moved. She waited until we felt secure, then reminded us she has not submitted. This was calculated. Bori sat down calmly, the display over. Her message delivered. She would cooperate, but she had not surrendered. A new figure appeared in the observation room. His name was Tekval, a junior Scaleth guard who had been assigned to watch over the training sessions. Unlike most of his species, Tekval was curious about other cultures rather than dismissive. He found human behavior strange but interesting. Why did she do that? Tekval asked Dr. Niravan. She has been compliant for days. I believe, Niravan said slowly, that she was making a distinction. She will follow commands for food and comfort, but she is not loyal. She is not bonded. She is not what we thought we were creating. Then what is she doing? Tekval asked. Waiting, Niravan replied. The question is, waiting for what? That night, during the rest cycle, the guard rotations changed. Most of the aliens had learned to ignore Bori's cell. She seemed calm and compliant now, just an animal being successfully domesticated. But Tekval watched her through the security monitors from his station. He saw how she never fully relaxed, how her ears tracked sounds in the corridors even when she appeared to sleep, how she had positioned herself in the corner of the cell that gave the best view of both the entrance and the air vent. She looked, Tekval thought, like a soldier on enemy territory, not defeated, not broken, just waiting for extraction. In the morning, Dr. Niravan proposed a new experiment to Commander Vextir. We should test whether the creature can transfer loyalty to other humans, she explained. If she bonds easily with any human, then her connection to the original handler was not special. But if she remains distant from new humans, it proves the bond is deeper than we understood. Do it, Vextir commanded, but make it quick. I grow tired of this experiment. The creature is just an animal. If she cannot be turned, she is useless to us. So they brought other humans to meet Bori. First was a young mechanic named Hyunwoo, barely 20 years old, scared and confused about why he had been taken from his cell. They put him in the training room with Bori and watched. Bori approached him slowly. She sniffed his hands, reading the information his scent provided. Fear, yes, but not aggression. Not danger. He smelled like Taesung had smelled, like home and familiarity. He smelled human. Hyunwoo reached out carefully and touched Bori's head. Hey girl, he whispered in Korean. You're Taesung's dog, right? Everyone's talking about you. At the Korean words, Bori's tail wagged slightly. Just once, but it was enough. Remarkable, Dr. Niravan observed. She responds to their language. And look, she is accepting him already. Perhaps she bonds with all humans, not just one. But Tekval, watching carefully, saw something different. Bori had not bonded with Hyunwoo. She had recognized him as part of Taesung's pack, part of her extended family. She was protecting him, not accepting him as a new master. The experiment continued with a medical officer named Yuna. Again, Bori accepted her presence. Again, she showed protective behavior. The creature is more social than we believed, Dr. Niravan concluded. She can expand her loyalty circle. But she was wrong. Bori had not expanded her loyalty. She had simply identified her pack. All these humans were Taesung's people. Therefore, they were hers to protect. It was not new loyalty. It was the same loyalty, applied more broadly. That afternoon, during a transport through the corridors, an aggressive Urgat guard shoved Hyunwoo roughly against a wall. The young man cried out in pain. Bori, being led on a leash by Kronvel several meters behind, suddenly lunged forward. The leash snapped tight. She planted her feet and growled, low and deep, staring at the guard who had hurt Hyunwoo. The guard reached for his weapon, but Kronvel raised a hand to stop him. Do not, the big warrior said quietly. I recognize that sound. She is not posturing. She will attack. The guard backed away, confused and slightly afraid. Just a small animal, he thought. But something primal in his brain warned him not to test her. Tekval witnessed this incident from his patrol station. He reported it to Dr. Niravan, who added it to her growing file of observations. She is protecting the other humans, Niravan said thoughtfully. Not because we commanded it. Not for food or comfort. She is protecting them because she has decided they are hers. This is not obedience. This is purpose. What does that mean for the experiment? Tekval asked. Dr. Niravan looked at the small dog on her monitors, sitting calmly in her cell but always watching. It means, she said slowly, that we may have made a fundamental error in understanding what this creature is. The 7th day of captivity began with routine. The alien crew had grown comfortable with their procedures. Guards changed shifts at regular intervals. Scientists conducted their observations. Prisoners remained locked in their cells. Everything moved like clockwork, predictable and controlled. Bori had learned this clockwork down to the smallest detail. She knew which guard walked with a limp that made distinctive sounds. She knew when the cleaning drones moved through the corridors, creating noise that covered other sounds. She knew that at mid-cycle, there was a 15-minute window when her cell area was monitored by only one camera, and that camera had a blind spot near the ventilation panel. She had not been planning escape. Not yet. She was still gathering information, still waiting for Tae-sung's command. But working dogs understood opportunity, and when opportunity arrived, they took it. The opportunity came during a transfer. Kronvel was moving Bori from her holding cell to the training area, as he had done every day for a week. He held her leash loosely now, confident in her apparent obedience. 2 guard escorts walked ahead of them, and Dr. Nyrovan followed behind with her data collection equipment. They passed through a junction where 3 corridors met. One led to the training area, one led to the command sections, and one led down toward the detention levels where the humans were held. Bori had mapped these routes in her mind. Every walk, every transfer, every time they moved her, she had been building a mental picture of the ship's layout, not with human precision, but with the spatial intelligence that working dogs developed. She knew the way to Tae-sung. As they reached the junction, a maintenance drone malfunctioned, sparking and making loud grinding noises. The guards moved toward it instinctively, and Kronvel turned his head to see what was happening. Bori moved. Not frantically, not with panic. With the smooth efficiency of a trained professional doing her job. She pulled back sharply, the collar slipping over her head because Kronvel had left it slightly loose. Before anyone could react, she was running down the corridor toward detention. "Stop her," Kronvel shouted, but Bori was already 20 meters away. She ran with purpose, her paws gripping the metal floor with practiced precision. She made turns without hesitation, following the path she had memorized. Guards appeared ahead of her. She dodged left, smaller and faster than they expected. One grabbed for her and caught only air. Another tried to block her path, and she slid under his reaching arms like water flowing around a stone. Alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Automated doors started closing, trying to seal off sections. But Bori was faster. She slipped through doorways just before they shut, always moving forward, always closer to where she needed to be. In the detention center, Tae-sung heard the alarms and stood up from his bench. Something was happening. He pressed against the transparent wall, trying to see into the main area. "What is it?" Ji-won called from her cell. "Are we under attack?" "I don't know," Tae-sung replied. But his heart was beating faster. Something felt familiar about this chaos. Then he saw her. Bori appeared in the detention area doorway, moving fast and low. Guards were shouting behind her, but she ignored them. Her eyes scanned the rows of cells quickly, efficiently, searching. She found him. Bori ran straight to Tae-sung's cell and stopped there, sitting down with her back to the transparent wall. She was panting from the run, but her posture was perfect, controlled. She had completed her mission, find her handler. "Bori," Tae-sung said softly in Korean. His voice cracked slightly. "Good girl. Such a good girl," her tail wagged once, fast and hard. Then she was still again, watching the doorway where guards were now flooding in. Kronvel arrived first, breathing heavily. He had been running, trying to catch up. He stared at Bori, at how she sat calmly outside Tae-sung's cell as if she had always meant to be there. "How did she—" He started, then stopped. Dr. Nyrovan came next, her multiple arms holding data pads that were recording everything. She looked at Bori, then at the route she had taken, then back at the dog. She navigated through 17 corridors, Nyrovan said quietly. She made correct turns at 11 junctions. She avoided 3 attempts at capture, and she came directly here, to this specific cell among hundreds. Commander Vextier arrived, his scales flashing colors that indicated anger. "Secure that animal immediately." "Wait," Dr. Nyrovan said. "Let me try something first." She approached Bori slowly, careful not to seem threatening. "I want to test the bond strength." She gestured to Kronvel, who held out food, the high-value treats Bori had been responding to all week. "Come," Kronvel called. "Come here, food." Bori looked at the food. She looked at Kronvel. Then she looked back at Tae-sung through the wall. She did not move. Interesting, Dr. Nyravan said. She has prioritized proximity to her original handler over all food rewards. The bond is stronger than we calculated. Tae-sung spoke then, his voice calm and clear. Bori, stay. Bori remained sitting, her attention shifting completely to Tae-sung. She watched him through the transparent barrier, every muscle ready to respond to his next command. Front, Tae-sung said in Korean. Bori turned to face the cell door directly, her posture alert. The guards raised their weapons slightly, nervous about her movement. Down, Tae-sung commanded. Bori laid down smoothly, her body relaxed but her eyes still vigilant. She was demonstrating complete obedience even through a wall, even after days of separation. The bond had not weakened at all. Commander Vextier watched this display with something that might have been respect or might have been frustration. The human still controls the creature completely, he said. Our training was worthless. Not worthless, Dr. Nyravan corrected. Ineffective. There is a difference. We attempted to override a bond we did not understand. We treated loyalty as a programmable function when it is something far more complex. Tekval, who had followed the commotion, spoke up quietly. Perhaps we should observe what happens if we allow them to interact directly. We might learn more from their reunion than from continued separation. Vextier considered this. You wish to reward the creature's disobedience? I wish to understand it, Tekval replied. We have power over these prisoners, but understanding their capabilities serves us better than simply containing them. After a long moment, Vextier nodded. Very well. Open the cell, but keep weapons ready. The transparent barrier of Tae-sung's cell slid open. He stepped out slowly, his hands visible and empty. Bori stood up but waited, still under his last command's influence. Only when Tae-sung said, Bori, come, did she move. She walked to him calmly, no jumping or excited behavior. When she reached him, she sat and leaned against his leg, her head pressing into his hand. Tae-sung knelt down and ran his fingers through her fur, checking her over with practiced efficiency. Looking for injuries, signs of stress, anything wrong? She's lost weight, Tae-sung said, looking up at Dr. Nyravan. And this collar is too tight. It's rubbing her skin raw here. We fed her appropriately, Nyravan replied defensively. You fed her what you thought was appropriate, Tae-sung corrected. But she's been stressed, burning more calories than usual. And she's not eating as much as she should because the food is unfamiliar. She needs her regular diet, and this collar needs to be replaced with something that fits properly. The other human prisoners were watching through their cell walls now. They could see Tae-sung kneeling with his dog, speaking to their alien captors not as a powerless prisoner but as an expert explaining facts. There was something powerful in that moment, something that shifted the atmosphere in the room. Ji-won called out from her cell. That's a military working dog, isn't it? My father trained them. They're incredible animals. She's more than incredible, Tae-sung replied, standing up. Bori stood with him, moving as his shadow. She's a partner. For thousands of years, humans and dogs have worked together. We've bred them not just for obedience, but for independent thinking. Bori doesn't just follow commands. She understands missions. She solves problems. She makes decisions. Decisions? Commander Vexter said skeptically. She is an animal. She is an animal who just navigated a completely unfamiliar ship, evaded capture by multiple trained soldiers, and found one specific human among hundreds of prisoners, Tae-sung replied. What would you call that if not decision-making? Dr. Nyravan was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised everyone. I would call it remarkable, and I would call our understanding of your species insufficient. She turned to Commander Vextier. I request permission to modify the experiment. Instead of separating them, I want to observe their interaction. The bond itself may be more valuable to study than any attempt to break it. Vextier's scales shifted colors, reflecting his internal debate. Finally, he gestured sharply. Do what you wish. But the human remains confined. The creature may stay with him if it serves your research. They returned Tae-sung to his cell, but this time Bori went with him. As the barrier closed, Tae-sung sat on his bench and Bori lay down at his feet. After 7 days of separation, they were together again. The simple presence of each other lowered both their stress levels immediately. But something had changed in those 7 days. Bori had learned the ship's layout. She had learned the guards' routines. She had assessed the aliens' capabilities and found them less impressive than they believed. and she had proven that their attempts to control her were futile. More importantly, she had met other humans: Hyunwoo, the young mechanic; Yuna, the medical officer; others during her brief interactions. She had evaluated them, decided they were part of Taesung's pack, and extended her protection to them. Over the next 2 days, Dr. Nairavan allowed these humans to visit Taesung's cell in small groups. She wanted to observe how Bori interacted with them in her handler's presence. What she saw fascinated her. With Hyunwoo, Bori was gentle, almost nurturing. The young man was clearly scared, and she seemed to sense this. She allowed him to pet her, and her calm presence visibly relaxed him. With Yuna, Bori was more playful, responding to the woman's confident energy. Yuna had medical training and checked Bori over professionally, which Taesung appreciated. With each human, Bori showed subtle differences in behavior, adapting to their personalities and needs. This was not simple animal behavior. This was sophisticated social intelligence. "She's reading them," Tekval observed from outside the cell. "Like a soldier reads their squad mates. She knows who needs protection, who needs comfort, who can be trusted." "Yes," Dr. Nairavan agreed. "And watch how the humans respond to her. They do not just pet her or treat her as entertainment. They look to her for cues about the environment. When she is calm, they relax. When she is alert, they become cautious. She is functioning as an emotional center for their group." "A pack," Tekval said. The human mentioned that word. Pack. She has formed a pack. That evening, during the rest cycle, something happened that would change everything. An Urgot guard, frustrated with the prisoners and drunk on fermented nutrients, decided to teach the humans their place. He entered the detention area and began harassing Jiwon, the engineer, making threats and pushing her against the wall of her cell. Bori was sleeping, or appeared to be, in Taesung's cell several rows away. But at the sound of Jiwon's distressed voice, her ears came up. She stood smoothly and moved to the transparent barrier, watching. The guard continued his harassment, emboldened by the lack of response. He raised his hand as if to strike Jiwon. Bori barked, once, sharp and loud. It echoed through the detention area like a gunshot. Every head turned. The guard froze. There was something in that bark that transcended species. It was a warning. A line being drawn. A promise of consequences. Taesung stood up and walked to the barrier next to Bori. He did not say anything. He just stood there with his hand on his dog's head, both of them staring at the guard. The guard looked at them. He looked at the small animal and the unarmed human. He had armor, weapons, size, and strength advantages. But something made him step back from Jiwon. Something made him leave the detention area quickly, muttering about reporting the incident. After he left, Jiwon looked across at Taesung's cell. "Thank you," she said quietly. Taesung shook his head. "Thank Bori. She's the one who told him to back off." "A dog stopped an armed guard with one bark," Jiwon said, almost laughing. "How is that possible?" "Because he heard what the bark meant," Taesung explained. "Predators recognize predator warnings. Bori just reminded him that size isn't everything. Intent matters, and she had intent." Tekval, watching from the security monitors, recorded this entire interaction. He sent it to Dr. Nairavan with a note. "The creature is establishing territory. The detention area is now her domain. She has claimed it." Dr. Nairavan watched the recording 3 times. Then she went to find Commander Vextier. "We need to discuss our conclusions," she told him. "This experiment has revealed something unexpected." "What?" Vextier demanded. "That we are not studying an animal at all," Dr. Nairavan replied. "We are studying a relationship. And that relationship is more sophisticated than many of our own diplomatic bonds. The humans did not create subservient creatures. They created partners. And partnerships, Commander, are far more powerful than dominance." The crisis began without warning. The ship's sensors detected it first, a spatial anomaly that appeared suddenly in their flight path. Commander Vexter ordered evasive maneuvers, but the anomaly was expanding faster than they could navigate away from it. Within moments, the entire vessel was caught in its field. Alarms screamed through every corridor. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red illumination. Systems began failing in cascade, one after another. Power conduits overloaded. Life support switched to backup reserves. And most critically, the containment systems controlling the detention cells started to malfunction. In Taesung's cell, the transparent barrier suddenly vanished as power cut out. He stood up quickly, Bori already on her feet beside him. Through the red emergency lights, he could see other cell barriers failing randomly throughout the detention area. Some prisoners were trying to leave their cells. Others stayed inside, afraid of what might happen if they were caught outside during a crisis. Everyone stay calm. Tae-sung called out in Korean and then in English. Don't do anything stupid. We don't know what's happening yet. An explosion somewhere in the ship made the floor shake. People screamed. Hyunwoo stumbled out of his newly opened cell looking panicked. What's going on? System failure, Ji-won answered, her engineer training kicking in. Something hit us hard. Could be an ion storm, could be a gravitational anomaly. Either way, this ship is in trouble. Bori moved to the doorway of the detention area, her nose working. She could smell smoke, burning metal, and something else, something chemical that made her instincts scream danger. She turned back to Tae-sung and barked twice. Short sharp, her alert signal. Something's wrong, Tae-sung translated. She smells danger. Probably a hull breach or fire. Should we try to get out? Yuna asked, pressing against the wall as another tremor shook the ship. And go where? Tae-sung replied. We're in the middle of an alien ship with no idea of the layout. We'd get lost or walk into something worse. But Bori knew the layout. She had spent days memorizing it, learning every corridor she had walked through, building that mental map. And right now her nose was telling her that somewhere in the ship, people were in danger. Not her pack, not yet, but people. Living things who needed help. That was what she was trained for. That was her purpose. Find people who needed help. Alert her handler. Guide rescuers to the victims, she barked again more insistently, and moved toward the exit of the detention area. She wants us to follow her, Tae-sung said, recognizing the behavior. Follow a dog through a failing alien spaceship? One of the other prisoners said incredulously. That's insane. That dog navigated this whole ship by herself to find Tae-sung, Ji-won pointed out. She knows the way better than any of us. Before they could debate further, Tekval appeared in the doorway, his scales showing colors of distress. Humans, you must remain in this area. The ship is experiencing critical failures. Moving around is dangerous. Where are your crew? Tae-sung asked. Anyone trapped? Tekval hesitated, then nodded. Several. Dr. Nairavan and 2 others are trapped in a research laboratory 3 decks below. The corridor collapsed. We are organizing rescue teams, but it is difficult with so many systems failing. Bori barked and pulled at her leash, which Tae-sung had attached out of habit when the cells opened. She was pointing down toward the lower decks. Her body language was clear. She had found something. Someone who needed help. She can smell them, Tae-sung said with certainty. The people who are trapped. She's a search and rescue dog. This is literally what she does. Your creature can find people through multiple deck levels? Tekval asked, surprised. If the ventilation is still working even partially, yes. Her nose is thousands of times more sensitive than yours or mine. She can track scent through almost anything. Tekval made a decision. Come with me, but only you and the dog. If you can help find Dr. Nairavan, it may save valuable time. Tae-sung turned to the other humans. Stay here. Don't leave this area. Ji-won, you're in charge. Keep everyone calm. Be careful, Ji-won said. Both of you. Tae-sung and Bori followed Tekval through corridors that looked like a war zone. Panels hung from the ceiling. Sparks flew from exposed wiring. Smoke drifted through the air in thick clouds. The ship was dying around them, systems shutting down one by one. Bori led the way, pulling Tae-sung forward with confidence. She navigated through the chaos like she was walking through a familiar park. When they reached a junction, she would pause, nose working, then choose a direction, always moving lower into the ship. Always moving with purpose, how does she know? Tekval asked, watching the dog work. Scent follows air currents, Tae-sung explained, jogging to keep up with Bori's pace. Even with systems failing, air is moving through this ship. She's following the scent trail backward to its source. She knows someone is down here who needs help, and she's taking us to them. They descended 3 levels using emergency ladders, the normal lifts being offline. Bori went down the ladders awkwardly but determinedly, her claws scraping on metal rungs. At the bottom of the 3rd ladder, she paused and barked. 3 times. Her signal for found, they were in a damaged corridor. Ahead, the ceiling had collapsed, blocking the passage completely. Smoke seeped from gaps in the rubble. Behind that barrier, somewhere in the darkness, people were trapped. Dr. Nairavan, Tekval called out. Can you hear me? A faint voice responded from beyond the collapse.
Tekval,
We are here, but the corridor is filling with gas from a ruptured conduit. We cannot breathe much longer. We are working to clear the blockage, Tekval replied. He turned to Tae-sung. I need to get rescue equipment. Can you and your creature stay here and keep talking to them? Make sure they remain conscious? Go, Tae-sung said. We'll keep them talking. Tekval ran back the way they had come. Tae-sung moved to the collapsed area and called out, Dr. Nairavin? This is Tae-sung, the human prisoner. Can you tell me how many are with you? 2 Scaleth crew members. Nairavin's voice came back weaker now. Both injured. I am struggling to remain aware. The gas is affecting my respiratory system. Bori was not idle while this conversation happened. She was searching the collapse, nose working over every gap and opening. She found a small space between fallen panels and pushed her head through, sniffing deeply. Then she backed out and barked at Tae-sung. One bark. Come look. Tae-sung examined the gap Bori had found. It was too small for him but might be large enough for the dog. Bori, can you get through? He asked in Korean, gesturing at the opening. Bori looked at the gap, calculating. Then she pushed forward, wiggling her body through the narrow space. Her flexible spine and determined strength got her through obstacles that seemed impossible. In seconds, she was on the other side. Your creature just came through, Nairavin's voice called out, sounding surprised and slightly more alert. How did she? She's looking for something, Tae-sung called back. Bori, find the medical kit. On the other side of the collapse, Bori's eyes adjusted to the darkness. She could see 3 figures on the floor. One was Dr. Nairavin, her insectoid body curled up and trembling. The other 2 were Scaleth crew members, both unconscious. The air here was thick and wrong, filled with the chemical smell that had warned her of danger earlier. But Bori's training kicked in. Find the medical supplies. Find the equipment needed to help. She searched the damaged laboratory, her nose leading her to a storage container that had been thrown into a corner by the collapse. She grabbed the handle in her teeth and dragged it back to Nairavin. She brought the emergency medical kit, Nairavin said, her voice filling with something like wonder. She understood what we needed. Open it, Tae-sung called through the barrier. There should be respiratory aids. Get them on you and the injured crew. Nairavin's multiple arms worked shakily to open the kit. Inside were breathing masks designed for various species. She fitted one over her own face first, and clean air flooded her system. Clarity returned. She quickly moved to the 2 unconscious Scaleth and fitted masks on them as well. We can breathe now, Nairavin reported. But we are still trapped. And one of the crew has severe injuries. Compound fractures. Internal bleeding likely. Tekval returned with a rescue team and equipment. They began working to clear the collapse, but it was slow going. Every piece they moved threatened to cause further cave-ins. Time was critical. Inside the trapped area, Dr. Nairavin sat with Bori beside her. The dog had not tried to go back through the gap. Instead, she had positioned herself between Nairavin and the injured crew members as if standing guard. When Nairavin moved to check on one of the crew, Bori moved with her, staying close. You are protecting us, Nairavin said softly. Her translator made her clicking sounds into words, but the emotion behind them needed no translation. We took you from your human. We tried to break your bond with him. We treated you as a subject to control, and now you are saving our lives. Bori looked at her with those calm, intelligent brown eyes. She did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. And she understood her job. People needed help. That was enough. I thought loyalty could be programmed, Nairavin continued, talking as much to keep herself conscious as to communicate. I thought your bond with Tae-sung was simply conditioning, training, rewards, and punishments, creating an illusion of connection. But I was wrong. This is not programming. This is purpose. You do not help because you were commanded to. You help because it is who you are. Outside, the rescue team finally cleared enough rubble to create an opening. Tae-sung came through first, crawling over unstable debris. He saw Bori and relief flooded through him. Good girl, he said. Such a good girl. Then he assessed the situation like the trained first responder he was. The injured Scaleth needed immediate attention. Tae-sung had basic medical training from his search and rescue work. He stabilized the worst injuries while the rescue team prepared to evacuate everyone. When they finally got everyone back to safe areas of the ship, Commander Vexiteer was there waiting. His scales showed colors that Tae-sung could not interpret, but his voice through the translator sounded different. Softer. Your creature saved my crew. 3 lives that would have been lost. Bori, Tae-sung corrected gently. Her name is Bori, and she didn't save them because I commanded it. She did it because that's what she does. That's what humans and dogs do together. We help, we rescue, we protect. Vextier looked at the small dog who sat calmly beside Tae-sung despite being covered in dust and clearly exhausted. We underestimated you, he said. Both your species and hers. We saw a primitive relationship between master and beast. We did not see what it truly was. What is it truly? Tekfal asked quietly. Tae-sung smiled and placed his hand on Bori's head. Partnership, he said. Built on trust, mutual respect, and shared purpose. You can't force that. You can't fake it. You can only earn it day by day through actions and choices. That's what makes it strong. Dr. Nairavan, still weak but recovering, approached them. She looked at Bori and something had changed in her compound eyes. Respect, yes. But more than that, understanding. I was wrong about many things, she said. But most of all, I was wrong to think that strength comes from dominance. Real strength, the kind that lasts, comes from bonds freely chosen and faithfully maintained. Your species learned this thousands of years ago. Perhaps it is time mine learned it as well. The medical bay was quiet now. The crisis had passed. The ship's systems were slowly being restored, and the injured crew members were recovering under careful monitoring. Dr. Nairavan sat in one of the recovery chambers, her body still weak but her mind working as sharply as ever. She was composing a report that would change everything. Commander Vextier stood in his command center staring at the same report on his display. He had read it 3 times now, and each time he found himself struggling with conclusions that challenged everything he had believed about the Confederation's superiority over newly contacted species. The report was titled, The Companion Paradox: Why Human-Animal Bonding Represents Advanced Social Evolution. In it, Dr. Nairavan detailed her observations, her experiments, and her revised conclusions. But more importantly, she included something rare in Confederation scientific literature: an admission of fundamental misunderstanding. We assumed, she had written, that humanity's practice of domesticating and bonding with other species represented primitive behavior. We believed that advanced civilizations move beyond such attachments, that true progress means transcending the need for non-sentient companionship. We were catastrophically wrong. Vexitier highlighted the next section and read it again. The human-canine bond demonstrates something we have lost in our rise to technological advancement: the ability to form genuine partnerships across species barriers. We Scaleth pride ourselves on dominance hierarchies. The Urget worship strength through conquest. The hive species value collective unity. But none of us have developed what humans call loyalty, a bond that transcends self-interest and operates on mutual benefit and emotional connection. A notification appeared on his screen. The Confederation Science Council was requesting a direct communication. Vextier accepted, and a holographic display materialized showing 3 council members from different species. Commander, the lead counselor began, we have received Dr. Nairavan's preliminary report. We also received security footage of the rescue incident. We need to understand what happened on your vessel. Vexitier straightened his posture. We encountered a human and their companion animal. We attempted to study and domesticate the animal as a demonstration of Confederation superiority. Instead, the animal demonstrated capabilities and behaviors that forced us to reconsider our understanding of human civilization. A single animal changed your assessment of an entire species? Another counselor asked skeptically. Not the animal alone, Vextier replied. The relationship, the bond. We tried to break it and failed. We tried to replace it and failed. We tried to understand it through our existing frameworks and failed. And when crisis came, that bond we could not break saved 3 of my crew members' lives. He brought up footage of Bori navigating the damaged ship, finding the trapped crew, retrieving the medical kit, and standing guard over injured aliens who had imprisoned her handler. Watch this, he said, and tell me what you see. The counselors watched in silence. When the footage ended, the lead counselor spoke slowly. We see an animal operating with mission-oriented purpose. Search, locate, protect, alert. These are not simple trained behaviors. This is complex problem-solving. Exactly, Vextier confirmed. And the human did not command any of it. The animal chose to help, chose to protect, Even after we separated her from her handler, even after we attempted to break her loyalty when crisis came, she reverted to her core purpose: help those who need helping. Remarkable, the third counselor murmured. What are your recommendations, Commander? Vexter took a breath. I recommend we release all human prisoners immediately with full reparations. I recommend we open formal diplomatic relations with Earth. And I recommend we admit that we have much to learn from them about building cooperative civilizations. The counselors exchanged glances. These are significant recommendations. We will need to deliberate. While you deliberate, Vexter said, I will be releasing the prisoners. What happened here was wrong. We judged a species by our standards and found them lacking. But they were not lacking. We were simply measuring the wrong things. In the detention area, Tae-sung was explaining to the other human prisoners what he had learned from Tekval. They're going to let us go, he said. Full apologies, reparations, everything. Apparently, Bori made quite an impression. The dog in question was sleeping at his feet, exhausted from her rescue work, but content to be with her handler. Occasionally, her paws twitched as she dreamed, perhaps running through those corridors again, searching and finding and helping. One dog did all this, Yunwoo asked, still amazed. Change their minds about all of humanity? Not just one dog, Ji-won corrected. One relationship. They saw what humans and dogs do together, what we've done for thousands of years, and it made them question their own assumptions about strength and civilization. Yuna knelt down and gently petted Bori's sleeping form. We've been living with dogs so long we forget how special it is. We forget that choosing to partner with another species, to breed them not for servitude but for cooperation, that's actually revolutionary. Most species either dominate other creatures or ignore them, Tae-sung added. Humans did something different. We made friends. We made family. And that changed both species forever. Over the next 2 days, preparations were made for the humans' release. The Confederation provided a new transport vessel, larger and more comfortable than their colony ship had been. They offered compensation, supplies, and most surprisingly, formal apologies from multiple high-ranking officials. But something else was happening too. Word of the incident was spreading through the Confederation. The story of a small Earth animal that taught advanced aliens about loyalty and purpose was becoming something of a legend. Different species were requesting more information about Earth's companion animals. Scientists wanted to study the human-animal bond. Even military strategists were asking questions about how such partnerships could enhance their own forces. Kronvel, the Urgot warrior who had tried to tame Bori, came to see Tae-sung before the humans departed. The massive four-armed warrior looked uncomfortable, his body language showing what might have been shame. Human Tae-sung, he began, his translator making his deep voice sound formal. I wish to apologize. I treated your companion with disrespect. I believed I could dominate her, make her fear me and thus obey me. I was wrong. You were taught that strength means dominance, Tae-sung replied without anger. Your whole culture is built on it, but there are different kinds of strength. Yes, Kronvel agreed. Your creature showed me this. When she stood between your injured and those who threatened them, she was small and unarmed, but she was also unafraid. That is true strength, not the absence of fear, but the choice to stand despite it. Bori sat beside Tae-sung, watching Kronvel with calm eyes. The warrior reached out slowly with one hand, asking permission. Tae-sung nodded. Kronvel gently touched Bori's head, and she allowed it, accepting the gesture for what it was. Respect. I have requested transfer to Earth Diplomatic Services, Kronvel said. When your world is contacted officially, I wish to be part of the delegation. I want to learn more about your companion animals. I want to understand how my people might benefit from such partnerships. You're welcome to visit, Tae-sung said, smiling. Earth has many animals, dogs, cats, horses, birds, all kinds of companions for all kinds of purposes and personalities. Tekval came to say goodbye as well, though his farewell was more cheerful. The young Scaleth had requested assignment to human cultural studies and had been approved. I will see you again, he told Tae-sung. When the official first contact mission arrives at Earth, I want to meet more of your companion animals, and I want to learn how your species developed such sophisticated interspecies cooperation. Start with respect, Tae-sung advised. That's the foundation. Respect for the animal's nature, its needs, its intelligence. Everything else builds from there. Dr. Nairovin's goodbye was the most emotional, as much as an insectoid scientist could show emotion through body language. She approached Tae-sung in the docking bay as the humans were boarding their new transport. "I studied you and Bori as specimens," she said. "I tried to quantify your bond, to reduce it to measurable variables. I failed because I was measuring the wrong things. I measured obedience when I should have measured trust. I measured control when I should have measured partnership. You learned, though," Tae-sung said. "That's what matters. You changed your mind when evidence showed you were wrong. That's real scientific thinking." "Your companion changed my mind," Nairovin corrected. She looked down at Bori, who sat patiently waiting to board the ship. "She saved my life. She had every reason to abandon me, to let me suffer for what we did to her. But she chose differently. She chose her purpose over her grievance. That is wisdom, Tae-sung. Wisdom we supposedly advanced species have forgotten." She handed Tae-sung a data chip. "My full report. And a personal request. When Earth and the Confederation open formal relations, I wish to visit your world. I wish to study your companion animals properly this time, not as specimens to control, but as partners to understand." "You'll be welcome," Tae-sung assured her. "Bori might even remember you." "I hope so," Nairovin said. "I would like her to remember that some of us can learn. Some of us can change." The transport departed with all the human prisoners safely aboard, along with supplies and reparations that would ensure their colony succeeded. As the alien ship grew smaller in the viewports, the humans began to relax, to process everything that had happened. Tae-sung sat in a quiet corner with Bori beside him. Ji-won found them there and sat down across from them. "Do you think they really learned anything?" she asked. "Or will they go back to their old ways once we're gone?" "Some will learn," Tae-sung replied, stroking Bori's fur. Nairovin learned. Tekval learned. Even Kronvel learned in his way. That's how change happens. Not all at once, but person by person, mind by mind. "And it all happened because of her," Ji-won said, gesturing at Bori. "Because a dog was just being a dog." "That's the thing about dogs," Tae-sung said with a smile. "They don't pretend to be anything else. They're honest. Loyal. They have purpose, and they pursue it without questioning or doubting. Bori didn't change the Confederation's mind through some clever plan. She did it by being exactly what she is, a working dog who helps people. That's her nature, and that nature was so foreign to them, so different from anything they understood, that it forced them to reconsider everything." Hyunwoo joined them, carrying food from the transport's galley. "I've been reading the news feeds," he said. "The story is everywhere in Confederation space. They're calling it the Companion Incident. There are debates, discussions, even protests. Some species are demanding Earth be given immediate full membership. Others are scared of what human companionship bonds might mean for their traditional power structures. Change is scary," Tae-sung said, "especially when it challenges fundamental beliefs. The Confederation was built on hierarchies, on clear lines of dominance and submission. The idea that you can have strength through partnership, through bonds based on mutual respect rather than control, that threatens their entire worldview. But it's also exciting," Yuna added, joining the growing group. "Think about it. We're not even officially part of the Confederation yet, and we're already influencing their culture, not through military might or advanced technology. Through dogs, through the simple act of loving and working with other species." They sat together in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars stream past. Bori dozed in her usual spot at Tae-sung's feet, her breathing slow and steady. She had done her job. She had found the lost, helped the injured, protected her pack. Now she could rest. 6 months later, the official first contact delegation from the Galactic Confederation arrived at Earth. They came not as conquerors or even as superior beings evaluating a primitive species. They came as students hoping to learn. The delegation was diverse, representing dozens of species. Tekval was there, along with Dr. Nairovin and even Kronvel. They met with human leaders, scientists, and most importantly, animal trainers and handlers from around the world. They visited working dog facilities and saw search and rescue teams in action. They visited therapy animal programs and witnessed the healing power of human-animal bonds. They visited farms and saw how humans worked with horses and other animals in partnerships that benefited both species. They visited homes and saw ordinary people living with dogs and cats simply as family members. No grand purpose needed beyond companionship and love. Each experience challenged their preconceptions. Each interaction taught them something new about building cooperative relationships. And slowly, the Confederation began to change. Some species started programs to develop their own companion animal relationships. Others began studying their own planet's creatures with new eyes, looking for partnership potential rather than just resources to exploit. The concept of loyalty as strength rather than weakness began to spread through Confederation culture, changing debates about military structure, diplomatic relationships, even family bonds. Taesung and Bori became something like celebrities, though Taesung did his best to avoid the attention. They gave some interviews, participated in a few educational programs, but mostly they returned to their original plan, helping establish the new Cheonan colony and training search and rescue teams. On the one-year anniversary of the companion incident, Dr. Nairovan visited Earth and requested a private meeting with Taesung. They met at the colony site where construction was well underway. Bori, now a year older and training younger dogs, trotted over when she saw the insectoid scientist. To everyone's surprise, Bori wagged her tail. She remembered. "Hello, Bori," Nairovan said softly. "Thank you for teaching me." Bori sat politely, accepting the greeting. No grudges, no fear, just calm acceptance. "I brought you something," Nairovan said to Taesung. She handed him a document. "The Confederation Science Council has officially classified Earth as an advanced social civilization. Not for your technology, though that is adequate. Not for your military, though it is capable, but for your development of interspecies partnership bonds. They are calling it humanity's greatest achievement." Taesung laughed. Thousands of years of art, music, literature, science, and philosophy. But what impresses them most is that we're good with dogs. "Do not diminish it," Nairovan said seriously. "What you do with dogs and cats and other companion animals, it represents something profound. It represents the ability to see value in others unlike yourself, to build trust across vast biological differences, to create loyalty through respect rather than fear. These are the foundations of lasting civilizations, and somehow your species learned them before you even reached the stars." She gestured to the growing colony around them. "You are building this place together, humans and many animals working side by side. Search dogs to find those lost in the wilderness. Therapy animals to help people adjust to a new world. Even cats to control pests in storage areas. Each relationship is unique, but all are based on the same principle: partnership." "It's just how we've always done things," Taesung said with a shrug. "Exactly," Nairovan replied. "And that is why you will thrive among the stars. Because you never stopped being who you are, you never lost sight of what matters. Strength is not just in weapons or walls. It is in bonds freely chosen and faithfully maintained." As the sun set on the new colony, Taesung walked back to his temporary quarters with Bori at his side. The dog was older now, showing the first touches of gray around her muzzle. But she moved with the same confidence, the same purpose she had always shown. "You changed the galaxy, girl," Taesung told her as they walked. "You showed them what it means to be loyal, what it means to serve something bigger than yourself, what it means to be a companion." Bori looked up at him with those same calm, intelligent brown eyes. She didn't understand the larger implications of what had happened, the political and cultural shifts her actions had catalyzed. She only understood her purpose: stay with Taesung, help those who need help, protect the pack. But perhaps, Taesung thought, that simple understanding was exactly what the galaxy had needed. Not complex philosophy or advanced technology. Just the fundamental truth that relationships built on mutual respect and loyalty were stronger than any weapon, more valuable than any resource, and more lasting than any empire. The Confederation had tried to tame a human's companion. Instead, that companion had tamed them, not through dominance but through demonstration. She had shown them what they had forgotten, that true strength comes not from standing above others but from standing beside them. And in showing them that, Bori had done what working dogs had been doing for thousands of years. She had done her job. She had helped. She had served her purpose. And in doing so, she had changed everything.